Dear learners, welcome to the counseling session of Indira Gandhi National Open University. I am Edwin Moses, academic counselor of MEG, affiliated to IGNOU Study Center 2504, Bishop Heber College, Tiruchirappalli. It's good to connect with you through virtual mode, though we are not able to connect through our study center. We are not able to meet face to face and attend our counseling sessions because of the pandemic. At least we are able to connect virtually, and that's good. Technology has helped us to continue our learning even amidst the times of crisis. Good to meet you all, and I hope I can begin the classes. We will begin with the counseling session. So what I will be doing is just give you an overview of MEG 1, okay? And I hope most of you have joined this program MEG out of passion for literature, right? Maybe I will ask you some questions and I expect your response. We'll begin with poetry. Okay, what is poetry? And the title of this course is poetry, right? British poetry. We will be dealing predominantly British writers and their works. And we have a separate paper for British poems, British poetry. What do you think of poetry, basically, comparing with novel or short story or prose piece? Okay, comparing all these things, there is something unique about poetry. What is that uniqueness? Do you find poetry is superior or inferior to the other forms of literature, the genres of literature? And what is your opinion of poetry? Can you comment in the chat box? Maybe you would have read many poems, you would have read poems from the course material, or you may be amateur readers, lovers of literature, reading various varieties of poetry from different traditions, different countries, writers across the world. Okay, today it is not British poetry. English literature is not just British poetry alone. Though the syllabus is predominantly British literature, if you see the other papers, okay, for your next semester, you have writers from Australia, Canada, America, right? Many countries. So now there is a body of literature that is coming up called world literature, right? Every other country has produced literature worthy of reading, okay, with great literary tastes and literary sensibilities. And Indian writing in English, of course, we can talk a lot about it, right? Has its own unique place in the world, literary circle, right? So now the field of study, MA English, is expanded to world literatures, not just British poetry, but predominantly the syllabus is British literature, and we have other literatures as well. Manjula Warrior says, deeper meanings to feelings than in prose. That's good. Poetry has deeper meanings, right? You try to unravel the meanings as you read and read and read, and you try to converse with it, interpret it, and you try to bring out your own meaning, or according to your own ideologies, beliefs, you interpret a poem, right? If you read a poem in a particular situation, it may speak to you in one way. If you read it in another situation, when you are in a difficult situation or in a happy mood or in a complex situation, the meaning may differ to you. The way you interpret it may be different, and it may also with reference to age, right? When you read a poem at the age of 20, or when you read the same poem at the age of 50 or 80, the way you see it out of your experience, you interpret the poem, right? That is the beauty of reading poetry. We give meanings to poetry, right? There is always a transaction between the reader and the text, right? The reader makes the text alive, right? By interpreting it, giving new meanings, and especially with reference to poetry, right? You can unravel a lot of meanings, deeper meanings, and you have to search for meaning. That is the beauty of poetry. In few words, meanings are loaded, but in prose you explain everything. There is no suspense in it. Right? That is the beauty of poetry. That's a great point, Angela. Harini says poetry should ideally not be compared with prose. That being said, poem is something that can be said as best words in best order. That's good. That still retain grammatical sense. Shorter and crisp. Yes, right. So all these things make poetry unique. And I used to say that poetry is like dancing, and prose is like walking. It's so easy to write prose, but poetry is like dancing. Okay, it's creative, it's complex, and it has its own shades of meaning. Right? You can talk a lot about poetry, and that is the beauty of poetry. So coming to British poetry, if you think of British poetry, if you trace the history of British poetry, who are the writers that come to your mind? Maybe I would like to know how much you know about British poetry. So, who are the writers who come to your mind when you think of British poetry? Can you name some British poets, famous British poets? So, we will be tracing from the Middle Ages, 500 to 600 years before, from the age of so and so. Can you name some of the British poets? Are you aware of British poets? William Wordsworth, very good. He is one of the famous poems of Britain, most notable poet. Edmund Spenser, Kirtana says, Chaucer, Milton, Keats, I think maybe the favorite, Chaucer and Milton, Edmund Spenser, William Blake, and John Keats, variety of writers. So when you read literature, enjoy these characters, enjoy these writers, and see them as personalities, as new personalities. Okay, see them as individual characters and enjoy them. Right? Don't read for the sake of reading. Try to relate with these characters, these writers, get to know about their personal life, and you have a lot of biography about these writers. And try to enjoy these writers and read according to the context, right? When you read British poetry, you should have a chronological sense. Right? All these things, as literature students, you have to do. Maybe if you are reading for pleasure, fine. You can just take any piece of poetry and just read and enjoy. That is there. That is why we read literature, reading for pleasure. But as literature students, we have to do more, right? We have to read between the lines. That is what we say, read between the lines and understand the historical context, okay, the cultural context of the poet, the writer in which he lived, and his own personal life. Okay, that adds meaning to what you are reading, and you can unravel a lot. Knowing about the cultural, historical, socio-political, and economic factors that influences the writer. So any writer or his works is a product of that age or that society in which the writer has lived. And in turn, the society has influenced these writers and the writers have influenced societies. And you should have a chronological sense when you read British poetry, right? You can refer to a book There are many history books. One is the William Hudson's Outline History of English Literature, and another is the Routledge's History of English Literature. Maybe I'll in the chat box later. Routledge's History of English Literature and W.H. Hudson's An Outline History of English Literature. And there is another book for literary forms, M.H. Abrams' Literary Forms, and that gives you explanation of each and every literary forms, right? From one, if you take poetry, there are varieties of poetry, ode, elegy, okay, sonnet. So each form is traced from its historical context, right? From the first English word to the recent English word. There is a tracing of all these forms of literatures in the book Literary Forms by M.H. Abrams, right? And also another book is there for literary forms. It's a small book by Oxford, Charles Baldwin, and a literary terms, a dictionary of literary terms by Penguin, J. Cadan. All these books will give you an overview of the forms of poetry, forms of various literary literatures, okay, novel and prose and other things also, right? And that will give you a sense of that form. And also when you read more history books, okay, there are numerous books for English history, English literary history, right? Edward Albert, History of English Literature, and Routledge is one good book. And there is also another interesting book, William J. Long's The History of English Literature, William J. Long. And that reads like a story, and characterization is good. And the way the characters, the writers are described, it's interesting, right? So while you read these literary pieces, I hope that all of you are passionate readers, because that is why you have joined MEG, MA in Literature, and develop the reading habit of reading so many works from across different literary traditions. So that will help you to appreciate and develop your literary sensibilities, right? So coming to the first writer, Chaucer. Do you know about Chaucer? Chaucer is the first notable English poet in the medieval time, around 14th, 15th century. And he is known for its interesting characterization, right? His important work is the Canterbury Tales, right? Where they go for a pilgrimage to St. Thomas Becket's maybe it's a pilgrimage to Thomas Beckett's, okay, where they go there on the way to that pilgrimage to St. Thomas Becket's Cathedral. They say so much of stories, so many stories. Each one they try to narrate a story, and Chaucer initiates that. And the travelers are pilgrimages. During that time, you can see a lot of pilgrimages happen, and they go to the shrine of Thomas Becket, and that is an annual affair. And on this way, he is telling stories, and he is encouraging the people who are traveling with them to tell stories. So they plan to take 124 or 125 stories, but they finally say just 24 stories. And what Chaucer is known for is his characterization. He brings in characters from across societies, maybe a wide cross section of society, right? People from different professions. And we have the characters name as nun, priest, sailor, parson, squire, a knight is there, a monk is there. And there is also a parody of these characters. A monk is supposed to not eat much. Maybe he should be holy and he should not eat. Maybe, but all the characteristics of the monk is excessive, right? He eats a lot. He's a glutton, right? He's just parodying, and it just gives an opposite picture of a monk. He's not an ideal monk, right? That is why there is a sense of humor in describing these characters also, right? The nun's priest said, the wife of Bath, and such characters you can relate with, and they have their own flaws. And Chaucer beautifully describes these characters and their stories in Canterbury Tales. So their visit to Canterbury, okay, to Thomas Becket's shrine is that pilgrimage. On their way, they narrate the stories, and these stories form the Canterbury Tales and the beautiful sketches of these characters. Right, that is what is about Canterbury Tales, and Chaucer is considered to be minded, considered to be the father of English poetry. See, there is no father and mother. We just associate certain people because of their tradition and their contribution to English literature. So you cannot exactly say he is the father and he is the mother of English literature, right? So the beginnings of English history, Chaucer is very important, and his work Canterbury Tales, and he has also written numerous small works like the book, the Book of Duchess, and the Parliament of Fowls, and the Legend of Good Woman, where he talks about various women characters like Cleopatra and others. And coming to the various legendary women characters, right, from the Greek and Roman mythology. And the next important poet next to Chaucer is Spenser, right? We call him the Age of Spenser, and he is known for celebration of marriage, right? You can see the two important works of Spenser, Epithalamion and Prothalamion, right? It is a celebration of marriage. Maybe I will show you two an important work of Spenser, Edmund Spenser. Maybe you can see the lines. I'll just read a few lines from Epithalamion. Yes, I will share later. The Epithalamion goes still further by describing the bride, okay, physical attractions, and the 10 stanzas given to the bride's beauty is evocative of the sensual passages from the Song of Solomon, similar to the Bible Song of Solomon. So the Epithalamion, a few lines from the Epithalamion. Her goodly eyes like sapphires shining bright. See the comparison to sapphires. Her forehead ivory white, her cheeks like apples, which the sun hath rutted, her lips like cherries charming men to bite, her breast like to a bowl of cream uncurled, her praps like lilies budded, a snowy neck like to a marble tower, and all her body like a palak fan. Right? That's the beauty of Epithalamion. And the next point, next to Spencer, okay, we come across the metaphysical poets, okay, important group of poets, and we associate a group of poets called as metaphysical poets, right? Who are these metaphysical poets, right? Before that, you have Shakespeare. You know about Shakespeare, right? Shakespeare, we primarily associate him with drama, right? And even though he has written a few poems and sonnets, and mostly maybe you have a separate, you will separately study about Shakespeare and the Elizabethan drama and the variety of characterization he has brought in through his plays, right? And if you read all the plays of Shakespeare, it is like doing an MA in psychology. So much he has dealt in his plays. So you'll be dealing with that separately in British drama. So moving on to the metaphysical poets. What is metaphysical? What do you understand by the term metaphysical? Can I get some comments? You'll also share the names of the books. And there are separate books for poetry, novel, uh, prose, Marjorie Bolton, and that's very difficult to get it. It's not available online or the imported edition. Maybe if you can get it, it's well and good. Poetry, and we have separate editions for that. Okay, I'll check that and let you know that book. I'm not sure about the author. Spiritual without form, right? Right. Coming back to metaphysical point, right? Spiritual without form. Okay, that's good. In a way, you cannot say completely spiritual, right? Metaphysical. Any other interpretation? Any other way of looking at it? Metaphysical points have their own unique features. I'm just asking you, what is metaphysics or metaphysical? Right. It's anatomy of poetry by anatomy of the book. Marjorie Bolton. Okay, that's an interesting book, but it's difficult to get it. It's not. It's quite costly also. Maybe if you're interested, you can buy and read that book. Can we say something not physical, beyond or otherworldly? Right? That's good. And with regard to metaphysical points, they use their style, their writing, the themes they wrote, and their conceits they used, far-fetched conceits, comparing love to something else, right? To a compass, love to a compass, okay? Using hyperboles, such far-fetched comparisons, far-fetched conceits. So these things are features of metaphysical poetry. And we can say so many points are associated with it. John Donne and Richard Prussia, Henry Vaughan, George Herbert, okay? And one important, okay, poet in this category is John Donne, Johndonne, and he is known for his sermons. He is basically a priest, as well as he is known for his love poems, right? Two extremes. He can write with such passion, so many love poems, as well as in later life, he has also written passionate spiritual poems based on his faith, right? Such extremes, is a unique personality. You can say with such passion he loved, and with the same passion he loved God. So such is the beauty of John Donne and his variety of writings. And maybe to get a taste of John Donne, I will read some of his lines from his poems. The Sun Rising, satirical, little bit of humor too, and you can see the scientific temper and the inventions of that age is reflected in his poems. So he addresses the sun: busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou thus through windows and through curtains call on us? Must to thy motions lovers cease and run, saucy pedantic wretch, go chide at late school boys in sore prentices. He's saying that, why are you disturbing us? He's saying, he's addressing the sun as busy old fool, unruly sun, right? Go tell court huntsmen that the king will ride, call country hands to harvest officers. Why are you disturbing us? Okay. John Donne and his beloved, they are sleeping, and he's saying that you are disturbing us. Love all alike, no season knows nor climb nor hours, days and months, which are the racks of time. Thy beams so reverent and strong, why shouldst thou think I could eclipse? He says, I could eclipse and put them with a wink, right? I would not lose her sight so long, if our eyes have not blinded thine. Look tomorrow late, tell me whether both Indias of spice and mine, okay, he is comparing his beloved to the Indias of spice and mine, be there, thou leftst them. She is all states and all princes, I nothing else princes do but players. See, he is comparing her to all states and all princes. So in the height of colonization, maybe you can refer to that. And she is all states, and Britain is the center of the whole world, right? In that sense, you can see the historical context, okay, reflected in the poem, the historical happenings, and referring to the Indian spices and the mine, okay, the ongoing exploration, okay, by Britishers all over the world, okay, the discovery of spices. So India is known for its spices and mine. So those days, especially talking about the 17th century, right? So you can see how the historical happenings, the historical context, and the various happenings of that particular period, the scientific temper and the inventions are reflected in John Donne's poems. And John Donne's poems are known for his far-fetched conceits, okay, comparing a lover to a compass, the lover and the beloved to a compass, and the separation between them. It is there in canonization. And The Flea is another important poem. And you can also see one of his holy sonnets, right? The passion with which he wrote about love, with the same passion he wrote about God, right? He says, batter my heart, 3% God, for you, as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend. Okay, with such fervor, with such intensity, he is calling to God, batter my heart, 3% God, for you, as said, but knock and breathe and shine and seek to mend. Right? With such intensity, he is calling to God, because later in his life he became so spiritual. So see the two extremes in his poetry, and that is what Donne's poems are known for, and his metaphysical poems. So metaphysical poets are known for using far-fetched conceits, right? Hyperboles. Hyperboles means far-fetched or extended exaggeration, too much of exaggeration or extended metaphor, we would say. They exaggerate things to like abstract things as well as things to a great extent. They exaggerate. So that is the unique feature of metaphysical poets, right? So coming to the next age, or the next group of poets, important group of poets, and the next age we call it as age of Milton, right? As Milton has dominated that age. He's known for his fine sensibilities. He is a lover of beauty as well as he knows his moral sense. Okay, he strikes a balance, right? He's a classicist as well as a humanist. Okay, you have to understand Milton as a classicist as well as a humanist. So he's not a hardcore Puritan, but he is also a lover of beauty. So who are Puritans? Can you say who are Puritans? But he understood the Puritan ways and he reflected that moral sense of a Puritan. Can anybody say who is a Puritan? You can see reference to Puritan in Shakespeare's works and many works of great writers. Who is Puritan? Can you respond? Who is a Puritan? Gayatri Sandal, good. Puritans have a simple life which is based on concepts of humility and simplicity. They follow strict moral code of conduct. They are religious and it's a separate religious sect. Puritans are abandoned the worldly pleasures. Yes, they have abandoned the worldly pleasures and they follow a strict moral code of conduct and mannerisms with their behavior. So that is why Puritans are the reason to close the theaters, right, during Charles' time. And you can see maybe he is, in one sense, he had the moral assertion of a Puritan, as also he is a lover of beauty. So you can see that in his poems, famous work, Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained, and his Lycidas. And if you see about Milton's life, it's pathetic. He lost his eyesight. But even though he created a great epic poem, Paradise Lost and Regained, right, it is based on the biblical story of the fall of Adam and Eve. And here, it's interestingly, you can see, if you read it, Satan is like a hero there in Paradise Lost, right? And it talks about the fall of the angels and the fall of Satan and the fall of Adam and Eve. So with reference to the biblical stories, he has spun a beautiful poem, Paradise Lost. And it's a must read for all literature lovers. And coming to age of Dryden. So this is the time Renaissance is setting in, and there are so much of possibilities for exploration, right? And there is so much of possibilities to attempt various forms of writing, to explore. And two important writers I would like to mention in this age is Samuel Butler and John Dryden. John Dryden is known for his work Absalom and Achitophel. It's a contemporary political allegory. It is based on a contemporary political allegory. You can relate with the political scenario even and during that time. And Samuel Butler hates Hudibras, Hudibras. Hudibras is an important satire on Puritans, right? It is a satire on Puritans. It mocked the ways of Puritans. Many writers have mocked, they have written a satire or they have mocked Puritans and their way of life. Okay, even Shakespeare does that in his work Henry IV, right? Falstaff. How many of you know Falstaff? In Henry IV Part 1, Falstaff is one of my favorite characters. Right? He quotes verses from the Bible, he parodies it, okay? He makes a joke of everything, and even the Puritans. The Puritans, they have to live with a separate, strict moral code of living, but they don't do that. They are enjoying the worldly pleasures. And of course, he is, in a way, you can see Puritans are mocked in many of Shakespeare's plays, and especially Falstaff does that brilliantly. And Falstaff is a kind of alternative history. When we talk about new historicism, in Shakespeare, Falstaff is a kind of alternative history. He tries to bring out the true history of that age, Henry IV, and through his association with lowly characters, he is a kind of alternative. You can read Falstaff as a kind of alternative history with reference to Shakespeare's plays, with reference to Henry IV, Part 1, the historical plays. Right? So coming to the next part, the most important and interesting age, the Romantic Age. Can you say what are the features of Romantic Age or the characteristics of Romantic Age? Some of you are aware of William Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, right? Many of the poets of the Romantic Age. Can you say some of the characteristics of Romantic Age? Very good, Vishnu. Appreciation of nature. That's good. Appreciation of nature. Of course, they enjoyed nature. They were inspired to write. They were influenced by nature. Any other characteristics? Emphasis on Gayatri says emphasis on individualism, very good. Spontaneity, freedom from rules, solitary life rather than life in society, right? And I remembered of famous lines from the preface to Lyrical Ballads by Coleridge and Wordsworth, that it says, spontaneity of feelings and emotions recollected in tranquility, right? It says of poetry. And they gave importance to imagination, right? Nature, individuality, spontaneity. And they were against all the traditional rules of poetry, and they advocated free rules, prioritizing subjective feelings. Very good. So what do you know about Wordsworth? William Wordsworth's works. He has written so many works, and especially the Prelude is an important semi-autobiographical work where he talks about his life and his influence of nature, and the way he has beautifully described the various sceneries and the ode to intimations of immortality, right? Such poems. And he says in one of his sonnets, the world is too much with us. Laying and spending, we lay waste our past. We don't have eye for nature, right? We are busy. The world is too much with us. He says that actually we are too busy. We don't have an eye for nature. He says, I would rather be a pagan suckled, okay, than be a Christian. He says, according to his context, he says, I would be a nature worshipper. Okay, why am I not? I am not aware of the beauty of nature, or he is not having that eye. Okay, maybe he's enjoying that. He says that people are not having eye for nature. People are not having eye for nature. People are not enjoying nature. They are so busy laying and spending. They waste their time, and they don't have eye for nature. That is what he says in the sonnet. The world is too much with us, right? And he is associated with the Lake District, right? And that is where in his walkings and in his and that district was a major influence in his writings, right? That is what we always call him as a lake poet. We always associate Wordsworth with the place where he was born, right? The Lake District, and collectively 3 or 4 poets together, they are called as lake poets, right? How much a place as it had influenced uh, poets, okay, poets like Wordsworth, right? And even in preface to lyrical ballads, Coleridge and Wordsworth, they talk about poetry and the sensibilities of poetry and where the true sensibilities of poetry lie. It is from the common man. That is what they say. From the rustics. They use this word rustics. It is where rustics, okay, and from their feelings, their subjective feelings, that heartfelt feelings, from where the subject of poetry is, and where, there lies the true sensibilities of poetry is. That is what they say about poetic feelings and the theme of poetry, the subject of poetry, right? Rustic is the word they use, right? Preface to lyrical ballads. And Shelley, Lord Byron, okay, these are all other important poets. Coleridge, Shelley, Byron, John Keats, okay, who's known for his love poems and beauty. Truth is beauty, beauty is truth. And you can associate, he's so engrossed with love and beauty. Love and beauty are the same for uh, John Keats. Okay, such an influence he had. Uh, right. So next we will be dealing with in the next session after a short break, maybe by 5 o'clock. Join again. We will begin with the rest of the poets till the modern age. Okay. If you have any questions, if you have any clarifications, you can chat, comment in the chat box. I will leave my contact. We will try to create a WhatsApp group so that we can stay connected and meet in the next session also, okay, without any interruption. Sometimes we face some technical issues. Okay, we'll meet again at 5 o'clock. So if you have any questions, you can comment in the chat box. If you have anything to add, you can add some points. So what I've given is just an overview of uh, British poetry till the Romantic age. Hope it was useful. And I have given my contact here. You can WhatsApp your number to me so that I can form a group, right? You can WhatsApp your number to me, your WhatsApp number and the program you're studying, MA program, because I'm handling 7 or 6 classes from BA to BAG, BCom till MA. So mention your name, enrollment number and program, especially, so that I can add you separately. We can form an MA group and MEG group and stay connected. And regarding assignments, I will tell a few points regarding assignments. Those who are getting ready for writing assignments, I think all of you are in the July 2020 session. Refer the question paper, July, Jan 2020. Okay. And you will have most of the essay type questions. You will have to write mostly essay type questions are some ERCs explained with reference to the context. You have to explain the poetic lines with reference to context and essays. So mostly, while I'm correcting some assignments, and most of the mistake that students do is quote lines from the text. That is important. Okay, quote lines from the text and write it in your own words as much as possible. Critically, write critically. Don't just summarize the story. Analyze the poem and write your own views. Okay, as well as quote the views, the critics' opinions, okay, on a particular writer or a work, okay. A writer would have influenced another writer, okay. Mostly, if you see from throughout the literary period of British literary history, every age will be influenced by another age. There is an overlapping of the age, and every writer will have an influence on the other age and other writers. Maybe you can see many writers are influenced by the writers of the previous age. Likewise, you can connect and you can see many have commented on these writers. Many critics are there, right, who have commented. You have to quote these critics, right? While you write your answers, write the views of the other writers as well as the critics who have commented on the particular poem or the writer. So that should substantiate your answer. Or in other words, we say it as secondary sources, right? Secondary sources. Substantiate with secondary sources. So quote lines from this text and substantiate with secondary sources. That will fetch you more marks in your assignments. So if you have any other clarifications, you can talk to me or comment in the chat box. So the next we will be dealing with Victorian age. It's a very important age, Victorian age and the modern age. Okay. And the postmodern age, a few writers. The present age, postmodern age in which we are living. Benazir says, can we submit directly our assignments to the study center? Yes, you have to submit your assignments to the study center in person. See, previously, a few months before, they were receiving assignments online, but nowadays it's not the case. So you have to submit in person, or if you are not able to do so, you contact your study center, the study center you are allotted to, you contact them and send it through post. Maybe you can send the hard copy through post. Send it through speed post or registered post. The hard copy should reach the study center. Okay. So send the assignments to the study center allotted to you. You have any queries related to assignments or assignment submission? There is no word limit like that. At least for an essay, if it's 20 mark essay or 15 mark, at least write 3 pages for an essay. For short notes, for 5 marks and 6 marks, you can write maximum 2 pages, 1.5 or 2 pages. Or for an essay, you have to write at least 3 pages. Okay. So keep it to 300 to 350 words. For a short note, you can write 150 words or 200 words. So there is no fixed word limit like that. Now it should not be too short or too lengthy. Okay, keep it the right. So last date, I'm not sure. Check the website. Check the study center RC Madurai website, or if you are from Chennai, check the RC Chennai website or IGNOU website. They will update you. I think April 30th is the last date. I'm not sure whether it is March 31st or April 31st. I'll let you know. Maybe I'll put up in the group. I'll check with the office people and let you know. Usually it is March 31st or April 31st before your semester exam, your term and exam. And you have to apply for the examination, right? You know that, hope you know that. Separately, there is an examination form link. You have to apply. After submitting your assignments, there is a link. Even before that, the link will be posted in the IGNOU website. You have to apply for your term and examination, paper-wise. So you have to complete your assignments in order to take the term and examination. That's mandatory. I'll confirm the dates. It may be either March 31st or there is a link put up there. You can check there. They put up the link. Give the feedback in the feedback link. We'll meet again at 5 o'clock. And you can check regarding assignments. You can check in this link what to do. The instructions are given here. And the contact numbers of study centers, everything is there. I'll confirm the date with the office and let you know. Give your feedback in the link. Later on, you can WhatsApp your number to me so that I can form a separate WhatsApp group. The second link is the feedback link, forms. The first link is the assignment instructions. Any clarifications? Okay. Hope you have given the feedback. Copy the link and use it. Okay, I'll end with this. We'll meet at 5 o'clock. Join again using the same link. We'll meet at 5 o'clock. Take rest. Thank you for listening.